Social media doesn't have to be the center of your marketing and growth strategy. And it may be a totally unpopular opinion, but as someone who started and grew a business offline from 2011 to 2019, this doesn't have to be the end all be all to your growth. Nor should you become reliant on the constantly changing algorithms or the fight for attention. And in this episode, I'm going to break down how to grow your business without social media so that you can create a strategic and sustainable growth plan. Now, let's get real. Social media can be exhausting. Sure, it's a free source of traffic. And don't get me wrong, I have loved using it to grow my business over the last couple of years, but it can often feel like a cat and dog fight for attention, seeing who can post more than the next in hopes of winning in marketing and social media. Or maybe you and your team are spending countless hours and so much time and energy trying to beat the algorithm only to feel like it's changing next week, like a dangling carrot that you can never actually reach. Whatever your reasoning, if your goal is to become less dependent on social media or completely eliminate the need for social media in growing and scaling your business, then this episode is for you. I'm going to show you how to grow and scale a business without social media using leverage systems. Now, let's get real. In 2024, it seems like everyone is trying to teach you a different way to use social media to grow your business. And yeah, we talked about this. Social media is great, but it's not the end all be all to your scalability or sustainability of your business. And honestly, it should be playing a much smaller role in the success of your business than you may actually realize. Growing without social media isn't as hard as you think. And I say this as someone who successfully started and grew a business from 2011 to 2019 completely offline. I moved my business online in 2019. And when I tell you it was one of the biggest shifts in how I was able to help myself grow successfully, but also help other brands grow successfully, was understanding the power behind offline strategies that created true and scalable growth that wasn't so dependent on constant shifting and changing. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want growth that isn't tied to an algorithm or to constant changes or shifts, etc. It's something that allows us to have leverage in what we're actually doing. And when we think about growing and scaling a business without social media, it's actually a lot easier than you may think when you understand and look at your growth as an ecosystem where social media plays just a small role within it. So let's start by breaking it down. Now, there's three core components of successful client acquisition. There's the traffic and awareness, which is the first one. Number two is demand generation, and number three is conversion. In today's episode, I'm going to tackle one and two, which is traffic and awareness and demand generation. Now, only one of these components are really where social media can play a really big role. And stick around as I explain how and why it's completely not necessary to grow and scale a successful business. Now, in any business, it starts with creating brand awareness and generating traffic. And the reality is, this is where most people turn to social media. Why? Because it's free, it's easy, and it's essentially what everyone knew and, in this line is like pushing and touting as the end all be all. But the reality is, it is not the only option. And before I break down some of the options available that are going to allow you to replace or supplement the need for using social media, I want to make something clear. Your growth strategy should be built around you. Where most people will say, go where the people are, the reality is premium clients are everywhere. So let me just shift that belief for you here and now. If at any given point you were told by someone or something that you saw that social media was the answer to your success because that's where everybody is, I want to be clear that literally premium clients are everywhere. I need you to sit with that. I need you to hear that because that is a huge shift in how we think and how we do business when we acknowledge and recognize that there are other ways. Your success and your ability to grow is really for you to understand that it's getting in front of more of the right people consistently. And it has much less to do with a platform and much more to do with understanding the strategy that's going to drive traffic and awareness from any platform. So, regardless of the platform, we want to think more strategically at how can I garner interest and awareness in a way that does not require me to be platform specific or platform dependent. Okay. The factors we look at when it comes to determining the right traffic and awareness strategy has more to do with you than with your prospective client. Again, huge belief shift. Regardless of the traffic strategy, it's going to require input from you, which is why identifying your success factors will matter the most in being able to have an offline strategy that's going to allow you to grow. So, let me give you a quick example. You can build an entire traffic strategy offline from writing blog posts. And I'll share with you how my client actually did this. But if you hate writing blogs, this is not going to be the right choice for you. So, when we're going into this episode and breaking down the strategy, I need you to hear and understand that you need to select the strategy based on what fits your personality, your style, your goals. That is ultimately going to be the biggest determinant of your success more than anything else. And that's oftentimes is a huge shift because we've been taught the opposite for so long. So I want to share with you just some examples of successful traffic strategies that you can start using in your business to create a offline strategy that doesn't require social media. One is blog writing or guest blogging. So you can either have your own blog or you can be a guest blogger on other people's blogs. Another is podcasting and guest podcasting. So creating podcast, having your podcast can be a lot of work. A strategy that a lot of people overlook is guest podcasting. Myself and my clients have leveraged being a guest on someone else's podcast as a huge way to be able to grow your list, your leads, and being able to generate more awareness because you're leveraging somebody else's audience. Another one is paid media. This doesn't have to just be Facebook and Instagram ads. It can be YouTube ads. It can be Pinterest ads. It can be Google ads. There's so many different ways to go about doing this. Another one is PR and media. So leveraging PR, getting on TV shows, getting on radio, getting on magazines. These are all different ways that we can go about bringing that in. Another one is in-person networking. And I'm going to share with you how my client actually built an entire business up to $500,000 run rate using in-person networking. Another one is reactive content. So examples of reactive content are you responding to somebody else. This can be done via like Reddit and Quora and different type of search functions where you can use those forums to be able to react and leverage content according to that. Another one is just collaborations and having strategic relationships. This may be one of the biggest and most overlooked opportunities, especially as you're getting started, but even as you grow and leverage. Because the reality is, when we leverage strategic partnerships and collaborations, we are building into the authority that somebody already has established. So, again, I myself have done this using in-person groups as well as in-person companies that I've gone to and collaborated with. There are so many ways to leverage these strategic types of partnerships that allow you to build in awareness and traffic from somebody else's audience. Another one are events, SEO-based strategies. I'm talking YouTube, Pinterest, content, etc. And I want to share with you so that you can see firsthand how powerful this is and how easy it can be to not be reliant on social media. I have this great client. Her name's Misty. You may have heard me speak about her before because I call her the queen of networking. This woman is incredible and she's a powerhouse. And really, she's grown a business from zero to like almost a $500,000 run rate simply using in-person networking. That means that she, goes to networking events. She goes to meetings where she's meeting with people and just using that in-person networking as her sole source of traffic. Another one of my clients, Sarah, has used guest blogging successfully as her only source of traffic. That means she doesn't show up on social media, do any of the other things. She doesn't even have her own blog. She uses guest blogs where she goes and shares frequently about what she does and then drives that traffic, which is what we're going to talk about next. Now, what I want you to understand is I couldn't go on without actually saying that it's not just about more people. It's about having more of the right people. And the key factor to having the awareness and traffic strategy that's going to bring in the right people is really centered around your messaging strategy. This is what's ultimately going to create the buying intent from the first introduction to you. So everything we talk about when we speak to growth and client acquisition is recognizing and acknowledging that we look at this from how can we condition our audience from step one and how can we create a space of creating buying intent, because simply getting in front of people, whether that's social media, blogs, podcasts, whatever source of traffic we're using, it's typically not a problem problem with the source of traffic. It has more to do with the fact that we're not using that traffic appropriately. We're not creating buying intent from day one. So, regardless of the platform or source of traffic that we are creating, we need to be intentional about really focusing on how to create buying intent. And that happens with our messaging and the strategy that we use behind that. So, the first question I want you to be able to answer is, what method and modality aligns best to my personality and style for generating new traffic and creating awareness offline? I want you to be able to answer that. Of again, if social media was gone, or you decided tomorrow that you were done and wanted to shut down, or you just want to supplement the fact that social media doesn't need to be the end all be all, what method and modality would align best to your personality and style to generate new traffic and creating awareness? Now, the key to success is having an interlinking strategy, an ecosystem that's going to drive success from step one. Because once we've generated traffic, it's what do we do with that traffic? And I will tell you, this is the most overlooked concept. And I'm talking about, I have worked with people who have been in business for 10, 15, 20 years, and they've never really looked at the entire ecosystem of what happens once we've generated traffic. So often, I see people as thinking social media is a marketing strategy, or they think, even in person networking is a marketing strategy. It is a piece of a marketing and growth strategy. It is not the end all be all, it is not the only concept. Once we've developed that awareness and traffic, what do we do with that awareness and traffic? Where is it going? This is where we generate demand. And once we've created awareness and traffic with your preferred source, it's about, how do I turn those eyeballs from that first phase of what we did into a yes by generating demand. Similar to having interest in a person and, just showing up in your best outfit and striking up a conversation. It's not just about creating that interest, it's turning that interest into desire. Same goes in business. Your traffic and awareness creates interest, your demand generation creates desire in relationships. And almost daily, I hear people telling me that they think posting content or showing up on social media is their strategy, or doing a virtual event is their strategy. And I want to make this crystal clear, because this will absolutely be a hill that I die on. Those things alone are not a growth strategy. Okay. So going live in someone's Facebook group, not a growth strategy. Posting content, not a growth strategy. And it really is looking at the ecosystem behind driving that traffic and then turning that traffic into demand. That is ultimately what's going to drive the success of your business. It's a lot like having a car with an engine and thinking it will drive. But if I get into a car that has an engine, it's going to need fuel, it's going to need transmission, it's going to need seats, it's going to need a steering wheel, it's going to need all the other components that allow me to drive that car. Same thing goes when it comes to driving growth in your business. Your traffic strategy is just the beginning of a full growth strategy. Now, I want to tell you a quick story, because this shifted everything in how I did business and what I'm going to share with you about demand generation in just a minute. So, just a few years ago, when Facebook and Instagram was down and all hell broke loose when it came to business owners and knowing what to do, my husband looked at me and asked me a really simple but profound question. He said, what would you do if tomorrow Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, any of those platforms were gone? And I think his thought process was that I would be freaking out, that, oh my gosh, my business couldn't survive without those things. But my response was completely different because of my demand generation strategy. So, what I said to him was that it didn't actually matter if Facebook or Instagram or any of those platforms shut down tomorrow, because I've built a leverage strategy that allows me to drive traffic from whatever source I choose to my demand generation. I want you to understand that if your business is reliant on any one singular thing working in order for it to be successful, you are setting yourselves up to fail. Because if social media were to go away, you need an asset that is going to turn interest into yeses off of social media, an offline strategy that allows you to do that. Because once you've created that interest, it's how do you win them over and turn that interest into demand, AKA people saying yes to the next step of working with you. My answer to this is bingeable selling. You've heard me talk about this a bit in the last episode, and I shared with you how the Netflix effect works. But a key factor to me being able to successfully grow a business offline without social media is understanding that demand is constantly fast moving. When we focus on a traffic strategy that creates buying intent from step one. So remember how I mentioned it's not just simply about driving traffic, it's about driving the right type of traffic. For myself and for my clients, we focus on creating buying intent from step one. That means that our demand generation strategy needs to move that intent quickly because we are bringing in people who want to make purchasing decisions. I want you to think about that for a minute. If I am bringing in somebody who doesn't want to make a purchasing decision, then my strategy of how I generate demand can be slow moving. It can be a slow burn. I see so many of you complaining about the fact that you want a faster moving strategy. You want a sales system that creates faster results for you, but your entire strategy from traffic to conversion is all built around slow burning strategies because you are not creating buying intent. You are simply showing up in marketing. So when I talked about the fact that you're showing up and creating content, you're showing up and putting something out there, those are not actually building on intent and creating buying intent. It's simply posting for the sake of posting. So just like watching a trailer for a show, you're more likely to immediately want to watch that show after watching the trailer. Same thing goes if I see a commercial about a viral new mascara. I want the immediate gratification of taking that interest and turning it into demand. But imagine that you see this amazing new mascara that lengthens and thickens your lashes while giving them the vitamins that allow them to grow. And you've been desperately looking for a way to get fuller lashes. But when you go to find the product, you're met with a page that says you have to wait 2 days in order to purchase. That interest is quickly going to fade. I want you to hear that. When someone is in the momentum of interest and buying intent, our goal is to build upon that interest as quickly and as effectively as possible. And newsflash, that offer that opens in 2 months or that webinar that starts in a week is only going to stop that momentum rather than build upon it. So when it comes to creating growth without social media, we drive this to our bingeable sales system because you want this phase of your growth system to be met in a way where your audience can quickly and effectively get to know you without needing you to be able to actively make that decision. This is your chance to begin conditioning your audience on how to see and interact with you. So if your traffic is set up to speak to people that lack buying intent, then your demand strategy is just you filling their learning cup with more and more education and information. You are effectively conditioning your audience not to buy. Whereas when I set up a traffic and buying intent from the very first step and having that messaging strategy that specifically targets people already in motion, then I need to specifically meet that and set myself up for people who want to buy. Okay. So when we look at moving to an offline strategy, no longer being dependent upon social media, it's not only from the traffic and how I drive new people and new eyeballs into my business, it's how do I generate demand. Having an offline asset like our bingeable sales system is what ultimately allows you to be able to move that interest into actual decision making and purchasing decisions and creating demand without, again, being dependent on social media, but dependent on you being on, allows you to create a truly sustainable business that creates freedom for you. So now that we understand all of this, it's about looking at what are the core things that your demand generation strategy needs to have in place in order to build upon that interest you've created and create immediate demand. Number one is it solves the need for immediate gratification. If someone enters into your world via your traffic, whatever traffic strategy we've set up from question number one, then we need to be able to say, can it solve for immediate gratification? If I had someone who's coming in with interest and buying intent, can I now move that and create immediate gratification? Okay. The second thing it needs to be able to do is it needs to allow them to understand what you do, how you do it, and why that's important. Those are the key things that your demand generation strategy needs to be able to answer while creating that immediate gratification. Number three is that does this demand generation strategy set them up to make decisions? Can they ultimately at the end of going through your demand generation process, say, yes, I want to do this. No, I don't. It's a great way for you to see if you have set up your client acquisition in a way that's allowing people to make active decisions. So here's the question I want you to ask yourself when it comes to demand generation. What system or strategy can I use to create demand and give them immediate gratification? This is a simple thing. Again, I don't want you to think when we remove social media, this allows us to create an offline strategy that takes the traffic we've created and turn that into demand. This is the core foundation of what it truly looks like to have a successful and thriving business that is no longer dependent upon social media alone. It allows you to cross that threshold and create a space of having clients who come to you so that you can either reduce your need or dependency upon social media or subsidize that and have a additional source of traffic that doesn't require so much of your input in order to achieve that. So I really want you to be able to walk away being able to answer those two questions is going to be what's going to foundationally set your business up for having an ecosystem that's not dependent on online strategies and lets you walk away from social media or subsequently create additional source of traffic other than social media. So what I want to share with you is why we've created a leverage strategy and why that's so important to the success of your business. So when we think of a leverage strategy, it means that it works regardless of the input. So when I tell you that I have clients who have literally successfully used every form of traffic that we have shared here today, from being creating their own blog to guest posting on blogs, using strategic partnerships, using podcasts and podcast guesting, using in-person networking, all of those different sources of traffic, we have a leveraged approach that applies the foundational psychological factors regardless of the modality, regardless of the platform that we're using. So we've developed a three-part system in the Easy Yes method that is not dependent upon that and creates leverage so that the same strategy that I have a client using on TikTok can take that same leveraged approach and use it in person because it's built around some core foundational things. Number one is it's built around innovation and methodology. Because realistically, think about it this way. If I was in person and having a conversation with someone, the key to me successfully being able to move that conversation is in whether or not I have the ability to speak to their level of buying intent, which is one key factor of our innovation strategy. And number two is, can I move that intent by clearly communicating my methodology and what I bring to the table? It does not matter what you do. This is the core foundation of success. This is why we help our clients develop what we call innovative gap methodology because it allows them to create a true market of one and create and generate interest regardless of the platform that they're on so that they can create demand coming into them. The second step of that is again our bingeable sales system. The power behind the bingeable sales system is regardless again of that traffic strategy coming in, we are then moving that traffic and creating demand through our bingeable sales system that is not dependent upon social media. Again, I want to be clear. Reason our strategy works so well and the methodology I've developed works so well is because it is not dependent upon a platform. It does not require you to become a version of what somebody else wants you to become. You are not my mini me. You are your own version of success. And there's leverage in how we build a strategy that works around you. From the demand we're creating using your innovative gap methodology and having the messaging that works on any platform and in a leveraged approach, we're then driving that traffic to a bingeable sales system that converts that and turns that into demand. And the third and final piece is actually being able to take all of the client acquisition we created and actually get your clients sustainable results. I cannot say this enough times for you to understand that the longevity of your business is dependent upon you being able to have a results and retention strategy that drives results at scale for clients without being dependent upon you. Because the reality is your ability to create pure profit in your business will be dependent upon the results you get for your clients. I could literally not market my business on social media again and know that the sole source of traffic was just from referrals and having people go market for me, that would bring in enough traffic for me. That is an important factor. But on top of that, it allows me to create retention I have clients who continue to work on with me and move on to next steps of working with me over time because I've developed that within that. Those are the three core factors of the easy yes method that allow us to have a leveraged approach that does not require us to be dependent upon social media and allows us to create a strategy that works regardless of the source of traffic that we're bringing in. This is the power behind the easy yes method. Why I am so freaking excited about this and why I want to invite you to take the next step and learn more about this. As always, first step is I'd love to book a growth optimization call. This is done directly with me. We hop on a call, you and I chat about what your business looks like right now, what your core concepts to your success look like, and then I'll actually help you identify where the optimization points are that will allow you to bring more money into your business really quickly and effectively and sustainably. So even if you walk away from this call just really having that core foundation, you're going to know exactly that's going to allow you to scale to 100K, 250K, or even $1 million months within your business and have a strategy that works over and over again. And then what we'll do is we'll share with you what the easiest method looks like and how that can be applied within your business. So if you're ready to book your call, head on over to easyesleads.com/call to book your call. But if you want to learn a little bit more about how the EasyS method works and why this leveraged approach is going to change the face of how you do business and allow you to build a business offline or less dependent upon social media, head on over to easyesleads.com to check out the mini series that breaks down our Netflix effect and how we get leads to sell themselves using this leveraged approach. Head on over again to easyesleads.com to check that out. And as always, what I'd love to hear from you is, did you find value in this? Was this helpful for you? Because that allows us to understand and acknowledge how to create better content for you that's going to support you even better. So drop yes or no in the comments below this to share with us that if this was valuable for you. And I'd love to hear your responses to the two questions I asked today on how you can now start moving your business offline and becoming less dependent upon social media. And as always, we love and appreciate when you rate, subscribe, and share this with others. But until next time, here's to keeping it real.